everybody. Welcome to the Hallmarkies podcast. And I am so excited today because today we are talking books and it's my chance to chat with my friend Bree, who I haven't been able to talk to for a bit. We've just been both so busy. And Bree, thanks so much. How are you doing?
Girl, I have missed our chats. I'm so
Really
excited to
have.
do this.
When you were like, I think I have free time on Saturday, I'm like, sign me up. Where do I go?
Girl, I was about to text you an hour ago because I had a no-show for my podcast. And
Oh,
I was like,
really?
but I know we're in different time zones and things. And I was like, no, and Rachel, she's probably interviewing some director of like the next great American film. So I was like, I'll just stick with our regular
Yeah.
show. But yeah, I'm excited to talk books because I finally I think us talking about it and
Yeah.
then the combination of me like walking after work, I have finally like found my rhythm with reading this
Oh,
year.
that's good.
So I'm like, I actually have a couple of things to talk about, you
Yeah,
know?
good. That's good. But how are you? Have you finished school? Is it done yet? You're
No.
here?
So
Oh,
our
okay.
last day, like our students' last day is June 6th, which is interesting because my kids are out a week before. My niece, her last day, she's in Missouri. Her last day was yesterday. And I'm like, why is our school year so long?
Yeah, I mean
Like
it's such a
3 weeks.
mistake to go late especially in Texas. Just those,
So hot.
it gets so hot.
Yeah.
So
We're starting earlier and earlier the next 2 years. Like we go back early August this year and then we'll get
mm,
out in like May 29th, I think, next year. And
yeah,
then the following year we go back even earlier and get out earlier. So
yeah,
I think somebody's finally gotten smart about it.
yeah.
But
I mean, without like, I don't want to get you in trouble or anything, but how do you feel? You're one teaching. What's your
oh my
diagnosis
God.
analysis
It is
coming out of
hard.
it?
It is hard.
You survived.
That's what my
Woo!
instructional coach said. He's like, your first year is just surviving. And I'm like,
Yeah,
I am hanging on by a thread. I'm an extrovert. Like, you know how they say like you could be
yeah,
introvert or extrovert, but you can
sure.
have the other tendencies. I'm very, very extroverted, but when I get in the car at the end of the day, I'm like, I don't want to talk to anybody. I don't want to listen to the radio. I don't want to hear anything.
Yeah,
I don't even
yeah.
want to make a decision about which way to go home. So I'm just like, maps, tell me how to get there. It's hard, but I
Yeah.
survived. That's all I can say.
Yeah, so I've been doing the substitute teaching, this year, and I did twice. I did like the traditional substitute teaching in front of class, traditional. I hated it so much, and so I have a whole new respect for teachers. I always respected teachers, but I have a whole new respect after that experience because it was horrible. And so I realized that I don't know if they call this the same everywhere. I realized my jam is like what they call para educators here
Oh,
I don't know
okay.
if
Yeah.
that's a universal term, but anyway, that's for me. And I've actually really enjoyed substitute para substitute at the special needs school
Yeah.
that they have here. It's called Jordan Valley School, and I really liked I just never spent a lot of time with this, severely disabled individuals. I just hadn't, and I'm not the most patient person in the world, and so I didn't know, like how I would do, but I love it. I love talking with them and
Yeah.
just sitting next to them, and I'm like, my role is I'm just extra set of hands. Whatever you need me to do, whatever you need me to go, wherever you need me to like, just tell me what to do. That's
Yeah.
for
And they're
me.
usually like the happiest kids.
Yeah,
They just like
they
have such
really
a joy
are.
for life. And then you get to like the regular gen ed population. Sounds like jail. And they're
Like,
like, screw this place.
absolutely not.
What grades did you do like the regular
It was
subbing?
I did fourth and fifth grade,
Oh, bless your
and
heart.
yeah, it was rough. It was a long day.
It was a long day. I know. I teach sixth grade, and I'm like, man, you have to have it's not for the weak.
No, it's really not.
And I wanted fourth grade, and I hear all
Yeah,
the time, like, there's no difference.
yeah. But it's interesting because yeah, I don't know. I'm 43 years old, and you think, have I figured everything out about myself? At this point,
Yeah.
like, do I? I think I'm pretty self-aware, but I don't know. It's just interesting to figure out this whole new thing that I like to do, and
Yeah.
this whole new experience, and so you can keep surprising yourself, people. It still
Yeah.
happens.
Yeah.
We'd like to take a second from this episode of the podcast to celebrate our sponsor of this episode, and that is the Hallmarkies Patreon.
Do you love Hallmarkies podcast?
Do you want an inside scoop into what happens on the podcast?
Do you want early access to episodes and loads of cool perks?
Now is the time to become a patron of Hallmarkies podcast.
By becoming a patron, you get to access our patron Facebook group.
You can request episodes or even be a guest on the podcast.
And most importantly, any patron can join our monthly movie watch-alongs with stars like Paul Campbell, Natalie Hall, and more.
It's as low as $2 a month to join in and become a special part of the Hallmarkies family.
Please consider, and we will love you forever.
Go to patreon.com/Hallmarkies.
That's patreon.com/Hallmarkies.
I have a theory about one of our beloved Hallmark thingamajigs, and it's been my theory since the beginning. And you guys don't come for me, but this is just my theory. But like, I feel like Mahogany is done.
Yeah, there's none scheduled.
I think it's done.
Yeah, it wouldn't surprise me because they just stopped caring about it for so long, and then they did this Sense and Sensibility and then it bombed. Frankly, I mean the ratings were terrible, and so what's the motivation? I mean, from a business standpoint, if you're Hallmark, what's the motivation if you put all of this money and time and everything into this Sensibility, and it gets under 1 million viewers? I mean,
yeah,
it bombed, not even close. And so it's tough. I mean, I blame them because they stopped caring about them for so long that I mean, that's part of the reason why people stopped watching. People stopped caring because they were so bad.
You don't care. Yeah.
I mean, pretty much all of them. I don't know. Definitely all the ones last year were mediocre at best.
Yeah.
And they just felt like these are the rejects that the OWN network passed on.
And we're going to take them. Yeah. I mean, and that was kind of my theory.
Passed on, but we.
That was kind of my theory going into it. I was like, okay, we have Unthinkably Good Things, which I thought was really good. We love an Eat, Pray, Love, Under the Tuscan Sun, go off to Italy moment. But I had a hunch. I was like, this is not going to last long. I was like, I just felt like we're doing it so that we can say we did it. And then the movies are going to get bad. People aren't going to watch. And that's going to be our excuse for doing away with this. And I hope that I'm wrong, but that's what it feels like. I feel like it's done.
Because I feel like they would have this Legend of the Lost Locket that they had. I feel like they might have made that a Mahogany if they were still doing
it. Yeah. I have that one recorded. I haven't watched it yet.
It's a little boring.
Story of my life.
But it's one I wanted to like more than I did. But yeah, it's frustrating because I just feel like they didn't really like give it a real try, Yeah. I mean, I feel like they tried for 2 of them and the rest were just not good.
Yeah. I don't know. I have been looking at the, I'm all about the Facebook groups. I love the Facebook groups because that's where you get the real nitty gritty. And people are like, I think there's a lot of frustration. I think especially like when we're not getting the new movies, like the people that watch faithfully all the time, they're like, yeah, they just show the same movies over and over. Yeah. And people are like, they have some really old good ones that they never play anymore.
Well, literally in this summer season, they are taking all of the movies that were on Movies and Mysteries, and now they're airing them on the regular Hallmark channel and claiming it's a premiere.
Yeah.
And so they only have 2 new movies in June, May/June, but they're claiming all these premieres that had already aired on Movies and Mysteries.
Viewers are on to you, Hallmark. Yeah, I've seen that on Facebook. Somebody's like, I've watched this before. Hallmark is gearing up for Christmas. That's all it is. That's all it is. They're gearing up for Christmas.
Yeah, it's weird. I'm hoping that we can, even if they do cancel. Well, of course, they'll never tell us they're canceling because Hallmark never tells any. I've said it before, but they're really terrible about communicating with their fans, about curating fans because, they'll just leave people dangling forever. And instead of actually like talking about what's happening on series or, they'll just manipulate, especially the Hardys.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's
Oh
ridiculous.
my gosh.
But yeah, I mean, I'm just hoping that we can still have occasional retro reviews from Mahogany Cast because I think that's the best thing to come out of Mahogany is the Mahogany Cast.
Oh gosh. I mean,
so much.
We went into it with the best intentions every time.
If they were smart, and I emailed while Wanya was still there, I emailed her I never got a response back, but I emailed her every single Mahogany Cast episode.
You did?
And it just seems smart to me that if I were putting out a product, I would want to listen to, these incredibly talented, interesting, experience with Hallmark,
fans,
Black women stating their, opinions. I would be interested to hear what y'all had to say. That's for sure.
Yeah.
So, who knows if she even saw the emails? It probably went to spam, but whatever.
In our world, she did listen.
Yeah.
Maybe she did listen. Maybe that's why it's gone
Maybe I don't
away.
want her to have listened.
The Mahogany Cast is the reason. We're the reason it's gone.
If they listened and then didn't do anything, then that's depressing. So maybe I don't want them to listen.
Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh.
It's an interesting journey covering Hallmark, that's for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I have been watching a lot. Well, I mean, Netflix doesn't put out a lot, but when they do, it's been pretty good. And Hulu's been putting out more rom-coms.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, let's see. In Amazon, they had The Idea of You, which I thought was
Did you
cute.
watch it? It was good.
I did. I liked it. Yeah. I mean, it's formulaic, but good chemistry. It is a little bit spicy.
It's Anne Hathaway. I mean,
I enjoyed it.
She's a babe.
It wasn't as good as Red, White, and Royal Blue, which was I loved so much last year, but from Amazon. But it was solid. I think solid little rom-com. The big disappointment for me in the world of rom-coms lately was the Fall Guy feature with Ryan Gosling and Emily Blunt. I thought for sure I would love it. I thought that it was my most anticipated movie of the year. I loved the trailers. And so I went and saw it at South by Southwest and I was totally underwhelmed by it. I thought that it was like just meaningless action scene after meaningless action scene. The plot was convoluted. It wasn't interesting at all. And you're expecting to have them to have this great chemistry, and they did, but they were hardly together at all.
No.
They were separated. It's just so they could have these action scenes that meant nothing, like to the story or plot. And so it was just like, are you kidding me right now? Like, it was so frustrating because it's not like a terrible movie, but it was boring to me and disappointing. And it's almost more frustrating in a way to see something where they had every ingredient. It should have been great. This should have been like my movie that I'm championing all year, the thing I loved. It should have been great. They had an incredible cast. They have all the budget in the world. They have a fun concept. The idea of this stuntman and this director and them falling for each other and get a little bit of mystery in there. Fine. But it was so badly handled that to me it's more frustrating than in some ways than like just outright terrible movie.
Yeah.
Because it should have been so much better.
Yeah. Like it was trying really hard to be good and it was not working.
They dropped the
So what's your
ball.
champion of the year? Because we had mixed baggage. I feel like that was our champion last year. What's your champion this year?
Well, I don't know if I have anything mixed baggage or Red, White, and Royal Blue worthy, but the big one that I loved so far. Most of the ones that I've loved have been at festivals, so they actually haven't been released yet. But there's probably two that have been released that I loved. One is Musica, which you can watch on Amazon, and it's kind of a rom-com, but like not. It has a mild romantic plot, but it's actually about the director Rudy, who I was able to interview on the podcast, Rudy Manusco. It's about his experience with this thing called synesthesia, where his senses are like heightened, and he hears and like he hears music and everything, and so like he'll hear the beat in passing by and the drums and stuff, and so he's able to kind of capture that in this movie, and he has these incredible choreography, and I thought it was so like exciting and artistic and beautiful, and just like an exploration of mental health and where he is, and he is kind of an unlikable character, but he learns and grows as the story goes, and it's where him and Camila Mendes, this is where they met, and now they're like dating, so it's just cute. So they have like great chemistry, and I loved that movie. It was very, very fun. And then the other one that I loved, who I also had the director on, it's Molly and Max in the Future. And this is very quirky. It won't be for everyone because it's kind of weird, but it's a sci-fi take on When Harry Met Sally. And so it's set in this like alternative world. The sci-fi world looks very Tron. It looks very, and these two that keep meeting over the course of like 20 years, and they show them in how their relationship grows. And what was so like, I love the movie. They have great chemistry. It was just so creative. And maybe that's what's exciting me this year is when I feel that sort of director's creativity coming through. And what was so cool about this movie is that the director, he basically made this whole thing with like his friend over the course of the pandemic. They made like all these miniatures, and they did all this stuff with green screen, all the stuff they did with like just the most basic of ingredients, right? And then nothing budget. And they managed to make something visually unique and creative. And I just really admire that. And if you follow their TikTok from Molly and Max, even if you don't like the movie, like it's so cool to just follow the TikTok because it shows how they made these scenes with like nothing, like in like a room with a green screen. They made this like whole world, and I think that's super, super cool. And so that's definitely one of my favorites, and it's on streaming somewhere, so I'd recommend that. Also, I really enjoyed Hitman, and that's coming out I think by the time, maybe not, it's coming into Netflix. I think so. It's coming to Netflix on the 31st, I think, but it will get a small release in some theaters. Netflix does that. It's so annoying, but it's such a fun movie. It's very spicy, so not for everybody, but it's about it's got Glenn Powell, who's gorgeous, and it's a fictionalized account of a true story. Like it's completely like woo, but they based on this guy who was this hitman and whatever, undercover hitman, and he starts to fall for one of his clients, I guess. And things start to get increasingly kind of messy, and it's really funny and super sexy. So that's some of my favorites. And then I have two other favorites that aren't released yet. They keep an eye out for. There's a movie called Ghostlight that I saw at Sundance that I absolutely loved. It's about this man who's kind of grizzled and this grumpy kind of guy, and he's had a tragedy in his life. His son has passed away, and he ends up getting kind of recruited to play Romeo in the community theater production of Romeo and Juliet. And it's so funny because Dolly De Leon, she's playing Juliet in the production, and she just like goes out and she sees him, and she's like, we need your help right now. And because he's working construction, outside their theater. And she's like, we need your help right now. And she like recruits him to read lines. And I was just like, this could be a new strategy for community theater.
Just go pick somebody.
Congratulations, you're in Romeo and Juliet.
As the lead.
Yeah.
You're the lead.
But it's so fun. And it's a great movie because it does obviously like deal with heavy themes going on. But it also has that warmth and community and humor. And so it makes for a really good watch. And what's super cool is that him, his wife, and his daughter in the movie are real family.
Okay.
Like in real life.
His real life.
His real daughter, his real wife. So it gives it an extra, I think, authenticity. So anyway, that's one I highly recommend looking out for. It's really good. Ghost Light.
Yeah. I'm just glad people are like going to the movies again.
Yes. Yeah. I mean, it's interesting to see. I mean, because the mainstream movies have been pretty disappointing for me. I didn't like Fall Guy. I didn't like the recent Apes movie. I didn't like If, which was so disappointing because I really wanted, to support
that looks good.
An original film. Yeah, it was just disappointing. And so I'm like, this weekend tomorrow I'm going to see Garfield. And I'm like, come on, Garfield.
Please be good. Have you gotten to watch the new Inside Out early or no?
I will, but not until June.
Okay.
So it's still a bit.
That looks so good. I am obsessed with that movie.
I love
We watched it in class and I was like, oh
yeah,
my God, this is really good. This is really good.
Yeah, the original, I'm nervous about this one, but I love the original. But yeah, it's an interesting thing being a critic, that's for sure. Yeah. And I'm trying to think for Hallmark. I mean, my favorite thing was An American in Austin. That's my favorite of the year. I mean, I thought it was the best of the Austins. It's just the best, I think, that they've done this year. I can see how some people might feel like the character was a lot because she's a lot of personality. But I really liked the story, and she won me over, and it was funny, and I liked the guy. It was really sweet, and so yeah, and it was just like a fun idea to have this sort of modern look at Pride and Prejudice and all these characters that I know and love, to see, what would you say to Lizzie Bennet? What would you say to Darcy?
Yeah,
we know the story. They don't know the story. And so what would you say to Lydia? What would you say to all these characters? And that was fun. I think a good idea. So that's my favorite from Hallmark. But there hasn't really been a mixed baggage yet that I'm like,
what
love.
Did you watch the Sarah Drew one? I love Sarah Drew, but
yeah.
And I've seen in the Facebook groups, people loved that movie.
It was better than I thought it would be. I still hate the premise of, hunting down this sperm donor. That I don't.
I was like, this is weird. Like that's
not
that's really how that's supposed to work.
In the recap with Jasmine, we kind of both agreed that if they had just met and be like, oh my gosh, we have this connection we didn't even know, like that would have been way better than this like predatory, like I'm hunting this person down that doesn't want to be found. Like,
yeah.
But if I just pretend that that's not there, if they just had like a normal meet cute, and then it's actually a pretty sweet movie. Like and they had decent chemistry. The little girl was so cute. So it just depends on how much that like initial premise is a barrier for you. But yeah. So
it's no Reindeer Games Homecoming.
No, it's no Reindeer Games Homecoming.
Listeners, I rent that from Amazon all the time.
Very high.
I rent it from Amazon all the time.
We'd like to take a second and thank our sponsor of this episode of the podcast. New from Harpeth Road Press, we have Lindsay Gibson's new perfect beach read called Fly Away Summer. Chef Lana Kelly hopes she can acquire the inn her family lost, but when it goes up for sale, the inn is snapped up by Hunter Graham of Graham Property Development in New York City, who plans to transform it into an event venue. Lana isn't so thrilled about her new neighbor, but could this be a case of enemies turned to lovers? Pick up Fly Away Summer wherever you purchase books or use the affiliate link below. Find out more about Lindsay and all the terrific new books from Harpath Road at harpathroad.com. That's harpathroad.com.
But I did go out to your neck of the woods, and it almost killed me.
Really?
Texas did not.
Oh yeah, you got sick.
I got so sick. It's the darn cedar. And I guess it must not have been a bad year, because I've been there one other time for South by Southwest, and I didn't get sick that year. But I got so sick, and I took the COVID test, all this stuff. It was just the allergies, and it was brutal.
I remember you sending me a picture.
Oh.
Oh, we're gonna kill her.
I think I'm never coming back to Texas again.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, it was rough, and it was such a bummer. That's the thing with traveling. For every like amazing trip, there's like, you have these miserable trips where just nothing goes right. You know, people get sick, all the plans have problems, the weather's terrible, whatever. Like, and I feel like you pay the price for the good trips, for the bad trips. And I mean, I was staying with friends for the festival, and they couldn't have been nicer and more accommodating. But there's just the biggest bummer was that I had planned 4 days with my best friend from college, who I hadn't seen much of, since then. We hadn't had like a long trip together. And so we planned this trip. By the time I got there, I was so miserable. I felt so sick. And like, I felt bad.
So sad, but it's so
I know,
funny.
they couldn't have been nicer. They were absolutely amazing.
Yeah.
Absolutely. But I just, you just feel bad, like being sick, and like nobody wants to add to somebody's like,
yeah.
Hair
That's
load,
interesting, because like I was listening to this podcast. They're like in London, like overseas.
Yeah.
And she was doing an interview with an American podcast, and she was like, yeah, we can go from like London, or I can go back home to Ireland, and like it feels like I'm in two totally different countries. It's like when I'm in the US, she's like, you guys have like New York on one coast and LA on the other coast, and they feel very different, but they're in the same country. And she's like, does it feel like that for you all? And I was like, yeah, I think to people that don't live here, they don't realize, like, if you live in Missouri and then travel to Texas, like,
it's really different.
It is really different. Yeah. Like you're coming from a couple of states away, not expecting to get sick, but it's different,
Yeah. Yeah. It's like I said, you pay the price for the good trips with the bad trips. Yeah. And it was just a bummer, because I just wanted to, have fun with my friend, but I just felt so sick. But we did go to Buc-ee's, so
yeah, you got to go to Buc-ee's.
Check. And,
it's a memory. It's all, you'll look back on this for the rest of your life and be like, that time I went to Texas and got sick.
Yeah, that's right. That's true.
Go big or go home. Okay, this had to have its signature stamp, and it was that you got sick.
Yeah. Yep.
So you read the Emily Henry already, huh?
Yes, I did. I did.
Okay.
Yeah, that's it's a good thing I'm making it part of this podcast, because I was telling my friend, I'm like, pretty much everything that I do in some way or another ends up getting monetized in my life. Like it's part of the pod. Almost everything that I read, everything I watch, everything and so it's a good thing we're talking about, because it's one of the only books that I have read this year that isn't a part of an interview. Most of them are. But anyway, I read Funny Story by Emily Henry, and I enjoyed it. I liked it certainly better than her last one, maybe her last two.
Last year's was the pink one. I can't remember. Is it Happy Place?
Yes, I think so.
Yeah, Happy Place was okay. And then what did we read the year before that? Was that People We Meet on Vacation?
Oh, I didn't like this one better than that, if that's the last one. Oh, yeah, you're right. Let's see. So, yeah, Funny Story, Happy Place, Book Lovers was the one before that.
Book Lovers.
So, yeah, I definitely like this one better than either of those two. But
I forget. I think Book Lovers gets overshadowed, because I forgot about that book.
Yeah.
Goodness.
But definitely, I mean, Beach Read is still her best book. But People We Meet on Vacation is definitely her second best. People We Meet on Vacation was very entertaining. He is a little bit too perfect for
Yeah, he
me.
was.
I mean, he is just the ideal man.
What kept this new
friends
one
to
from being
lovers.
like, what kept this one from beating out Beach Read?
Um, I don't know. Maybe it's just all starting to feel a little bit. There was just like a freshness to
Yeah.
Beach Read. But this
Becoming a
one,
little repetitive, you think?
yeah, and I mean, it was fun. I liked this one. I mean, so you have these two people that have just been dumped by their fiancés, and they end up sharing an apartment together, even though because they were both dumped, and so uh, that's the put their life back together, but then of course they end up falling for each other, and so that's like a fun story,
Yeah.
but I don't know why I liked it. Like, it's just not as good as Beach Read.
Yeah.
I don't know how to explain it.
I always wonder because, like, she puts out one book a year, right? Unless there's something else we're missing. And the moment it is announced, it's a big deal. And I'm always like, man, like,
Yeah,
are you gonna
it's true.
ever is like Beach Read is clearly going to outlive her. Like, are you gonna be able to top that? Because people love Beach Read.
I think with Beach Read is the lead was so relatable. It was so
Mhm.
easy to kind of understand where she was coming from, and because she was a writer, and she's in this book she's a librarian, and so she likes to read other things, and they do have really nice chemistry, and as a couple, and the sort of the will they won't they, and he falls first before her, and so that's always fun, and yeah, it's I think it's her third best, but yeah, she definitely has like a formula, that she
Yeah.
likes to do, and she's very good at it. But maybe there's something about it that's I'm starting to feel the formula just a little bit. Uh, but uh,
Yeah.
but it was definitely better than the last one,
Because
last
we
two.
read the Carly Fortune, didn't we? Like what was the first Lake book we read? Can't remember, but her new
Oh,
book is also, it's like this summer will be different, and it's
oh,
another
really?
Lake book. And I'm like,
Oh,
I am going to read this, but are we
okay.
going to get a Lake book every summer? But I'm going to read it.
Yeah.
So-
Well, so let's talk about some other stuff that I've read. So I did reread all of the Bridgerton books
Okay.
just to get ready for the season because I was like in agony. Like I'm so excited for the new season and I couldn't wait. And so I was like, well, I just got to read the books because that'll tide me over. And
Yeah.
I do love the books, every single one of them. I love all 8. They're all great and great reads, very entertaining. She's a great writer. She knows how to make you swoon
Mhm.
with every single one. And uh, and they're different a little than the series because the series are a little bit more the series is a little bit more rom-commy than the
Mhm.
books. The books, most of them, they get together a little bit faster, the couple, and so it's kind of about their relationship and their it allows the books to be a little sexier because the
Yeah.
relationships happen faster. Like in the second book, the Viscount book, they which is the second season of the show, they get married pretty early on in the book, and they don't at all in the series. They get engaged at the very end. And so it's just like different, but it allows the books to be a little bit steamier, if you can believe it, than the show,
Yeah.
because the
In the
show's pretty
show.
steamy. But except for the first season of the show, which is I think made that season so special, was they in that season they get together very early on because there's like the stool and everything. And but I don't know, she's a very good writer. She's a very dishy, fun, escapist writer. And I love the series, and I love the books. So that's fun to get to read those again. And they're quick, easy reads. I mean, I can polish one of them in an afternoon, no problem.
We'd like to take a second and thank our sponsor for this episode of the podcast. It's the Hallmarkies merch store.
Are you looking for that perfect gift for the postable, hardy, or Hallmarky in your life?
What about getting that t-shirt or hoodie that will help you stand out at your next holiday party?
Now is the time to check out the Hallmarkies merch store.
Full of festive designs by artists like Jessica Miller, Carrie from Hallmark Comics, and more.
You can even have more than just shirts, but totes, cell phone cases, notebooks, mugs, and more.
And it isn't just Hallmark. We have designs for Anna Green Gables, Man from Snowy River, The Nanny, and more.
Every purchase at the merch store goes to help support the podcast and allows us to make the great content you know and love.
There are frequent sales, so go to tpublic.com/stores/Hallmarkies or see the link in the description.
That's tpublic.com/stores/Hallmarkies.
And then almost pretty much everything else that I read was part of the podcast. I read The Seamstress of Acadie, and that was for an interview with Laura France. And this was interesting because it was about this time in Canada. It's like I think it was like the 1870s or something. Anyway, where there was this French occupation, I guess. Oh no, sorry, 1750s. So it was 1754, and there was this French and British conflict. Anyway, it was interesting. I never knew anything about that. That was a pretty good one. And then I read Murder at the Breakers. This was the Gilded Mystery by Elisa Maxwell. That was for an interview, and it was fun and fun enough. Little mystery. It was much better than the movie. And then I read The Secret Ingredient to interview Nancy Nagel, and that was fun. I read Love in Tandem to interview Becca Kinzer, and this was pretty cute. It was a second chance romance. The boyfriend from high school, they end up meeting up, and they end up going on this bicycle trek together, this tandem bicycle thing. Anyway, that was pretty cute. And then I read There Goes the Groom by Esther Hatch, who you've met. She's great, and she's really good at writing the Regency.
Yeah, let's say this was an historical.
Good. So that was fun. And then The Library of Second Chances.
That's one you texted me about. This is with Jenny Hales Publishing. Okay.
Yeah. So they pretty much, Harpeth Road pretty much sponsored the pod the entire month of May, which thank you so much. And this one was a lot of fun. It's by Savannah Carlyle, and we had her on the pod. And she, this is her debut. So it's very exciting for her. And it's about this, you have this woman who you have this woman and this man, and he's like trying to buy out the pier and everything. And so it's pretty basic on that level. But what they don't know is that they are communicating through this little library. They're writing each other messages.
Yes, I remember looking into it when you texted.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. I love that.
So that makes it pretty cute. Fly Away Summer by Lindsay Gibson. And
Lindsay.
This was a lot of fun. This is her second book, and it's a pretty basic story of the enemies to lovers. He's also trying to buy out her father's restaurant and pier and everything, and she doesn't, she's against it, and they battle back and forth. And so like the setup is fairly conventional, but I like the characters, and she's so good at writing really dishy characters and dialogue.
If her first one was
first one was called The Christmas Promise too. She's just a good writer. She's a very good writer. So I really enjoyed talking with her and having her back on.
Okay, I'm thinking of another one from Harpeth Road. So the holiday plan. I was like, somebody had a Valentine's themed book, but it was with Harpeth Road. It was by Emma Linden, and I loved that book. I didn't read it this year though. I'm trying to like keep up with their new releases, so I'll have to look for that. I follow Lindsay online, and she's such a joy to keep up with. So I'll have to find. I'm gonna get
She's great, and she's really good writer. She's really good at building the smolder. Like her books are completely, clean and everything, but just building that chemistry and that tension and stuff. So that's really good. And so yeah, I've been very fortunate in being able to talk to so many incredible authors.
I'm looking at one more. There was I haven't read this one, but it's also from Harpeth Road. I have it on Kindle and I really want a physical copy. It is called The Island of Summer Sunsets by Susan Sands.
Ooh.
I think it came out last year. It may have been the year before, but yeah, I'm trying to keep up with their new releases and download them to Kindle and then eventually get them in physical copy. But those all sound so good, Rachel.
Well, I also forgot. I read The Dating Contract by Stacey Agdern, friend of the podcast, and that was a lot of fun too. And that you kind of have sort of a little bit of a fake dating element in it. And the girl, she's going back, get her bat mitzvah, and there's this dating contract, and so that that one was cute too. And so yeah, it's just been my privilege this year to talk to so many incredible authors. I also read from Hollywood with Love, The Rise and Fall of the Romantic Comedy by Scott Meslow. We had Scott on the podcast, so if you're looking for some nonfiction, and it's so much fun. He picks, I think it was 12 movies that he chronicles and talks about and how they were made, and the sort of the journey of the rom-com. And so I think our fans will definitely love that book. And it and like I said, we had him on. He was great. And so yeah, that's another one to check out.
I remember getting that book and I was like, this book is made for Rachel. I'm glad. I mean, I haven't read it yet, but just like seeing the rise and fall of the rom-com or whatever, I was like, oh, this is a Rachel book. I wonder if she's read this.
Yeah, it's the kind of book that I love having on the car and stuff, because it's not like distracting, or it's just so it's interesting to learn about these movies. And I sometimes I like a good nonfiction. I don't know about you.
Oh yeah, me too.
Yeah.
There's one that I want to read about. It's like I'll Have What She's Having, and it's like somebody's take on Nora Ephron, and I'm like, I need a copy of that. I
have that on my Goodreads on my Audible to listen to.
We might have to read it. We'll have to read it and
that sounds
talk
good
about it.
I love Nora Ephron so much. The only other books that I read, I have had a pretty good streak. I read The Christmas Wager by Holly Cassidy. That was a lot of fun. I think you might have recommended that one to me.
Yes.
It was pretty cute. And then I read Faking Christmas,
Carrie Winfrey's book.
And that was great. I loved that. And
I know you love Christmas in Connecticut, so I was like, oh yeah, you have to read this book.
Yeah. And so that was a really fun sort of modern take on Christmas in Connecticut. So I liked that one. But do you have any others that you want to report on?
Okay, at the beginning of the year I mostly read children's books. I love them. They're hard. I did read Faking a Fairy Tale by Terry Wilson. It's a fake romance. It's book 2 in a series that she has with Harlequin Special Edition. I think the series is over. She is actually going to start writing for Love Inspired, which is where she started. So for my faith-based romance readers, friends, like she's coming back to that. But I love this series. It's like her version of like Sex in the City, but I mean there's no sex on the page, it's all fade to dark, but it's so fun. And Terry Wilson cupcakes and just like sparkly New York. It's so good. Speaking of Nora Ephron, I did read Nora Ephron, The Last Interview and Other Conversations. It was hilarious. It's only like 90 pages.
Her books of essays I love.
Are good, right?
Yeah.
And these is it's like 90 pages, but it was hilarious. So guys, and it's a whole series of like celebrities that have passed on, like their last interview. So go check Nora's out. It was great. What else did I read? Because I was obsessed, and I still love this movie. Netflix adapted Happiness for Beginners by Catherine Sinner. I did read the book. I think that I actually love the movie more because I watched it first, and it's so good. But I did read the book. It's
I
fantastic.
still gotta watch that. I haven't watched it.
Rachel, you
I
have got to watch
know,
this
it's a
movie. We have to do a
problem.
deep dive on it. Summer, that's our first movie we're going to cover.
You know what I did watch that I loved from last year is I Love at First Sight. Have you seen that one yet on Netflix?
I don't think so.
It's really cute. I mean, it's pretty basic, but it's executed so well. Charming.
We have to do
cute.
Happiness for a Beginner. You have to watch the
Okay.
Players. Like, you have to watch Players. And we have
I
to
have
talk
watched
about it.
Players.
You have? What did
Yeah.
you think?
It was cute. It was cute. Yes.
Good Material by Dolly Alderton was all over the place. I did read it. It is great. It's like a breakup book, but we're following the guy. It's from his perspective, and it's kind of like a women's fiction, but it's a guy. I don't know it, but just how sometimes being alone is the better option for us, even though we may not think about it. I did read One in a Millennial, which is a nonfiction. It's on friendship, feelings, fangirls, and fitting in. It was okay. I think I had really high expectations and was like expecting to feel some nostalgia. It was okay. I think if you're going into your hot girl summer and you want some nonfiction, just put it on. What else is worth talking about? I did read, so Tiff Marcello has joined Harlequin Special Edition, and she has a book called It Started with a Secret, and it's a really fun but smart spin on Secret Baby. The hero, we follow him. He was the love child of this guy, and the guy has passed away. And to kind of get to know himself more, like he learns he has sisters, and he's like, I want to meet these women. And so it's him like getting a job at their like family resort as a chef. The heroine, the woman he falls in love with, she is aware of like the secret, and she's like, look, you're really putting me in a really messed up situation. Like, these are my friends, they've become family. And it's the first book in a series. I did chat with Tiff, and she's like, you'll see over the series, like now that the secret is out, people are still dealing with it, you know. But it was really beautiful. It was really fun. She still managed to like make it lighthearted, but also at the same time, like, he is the love child, you know, he was a secret, and like just everybody having to deal with that. I read How to End a Love Story by Yuling Kwong. Devastating, but so good. A lot of people DNF this book because the hero is responsible for the death of the heroine's sister, but the heroine's sister committed suicide. Like, she walked in front of his car as he was driving.
Right.
And so you see,
but
like,
it was an accident. He didn't
it was
like
an
murder
accident.
her.
It was not his fault. Like, it's not his fault. So you see, and they're both screenwriters, and she's a young adult novelist. He is a screenwriter adapting on the screenwriting team of her book. And she at first is like, absolutely not. And they're like, well, then the project's basically not going to happen. He's one of our best writers. And so you slowly see their relationship unfold. And then obviously it gets to a point where it's like, okay, you're going to be around my parents. And they're like, no. And so just kind of seeing them have to like work through that. I think the afraidness of like the fear of like admitting that like mental health was definitely a thing here, you know?
Yeah.
I say stick with it. I know a lot of people gave up on this book, but it is so worth it in the end. And then like one of my most recent finishes was Just for the Summer by Abby Jimenez, which I did not realize was part of a series, but oh well. This book wrecked me in the best possible way. It is so good, Rachel. You've got to read it. It's so good. I don't know. I don't want to say too much, but I am in my give me all the summer romance books because of that book. I just remembered, it just made me realize like how fun a summer book is. Like, okay, I'm here for the summer and then it's over, but oh gosh, now we're having feelings for each other, or, you know, that summer moment that you just can't forget. I just loved it. I loved this book so much. The heroine has some mom issues, and you are like rooting for her to work through things. She has an amazing best friend that is like, knows her, like, don't let her run away. If she runs away, she won't come back. Like, it's so good. You guys have to read it. So yes, it's been a good reading past couple of months because I knew
That's
we were going
good.
to chat. And I'm like, audiobook on my walk. So I have something. But one I haven't read, I have to plug. Christina Lauren has a new book out, you guys. It's called The Paradise Problem. We love a Christina Lauren summer romantic comedy. It is out now.
Sounds good.
Go get your copy. Me and Rachel did cover the Carly Fortune, one of her Lake books. The new one, I think, is called This Summer Will Be Different. So that is out, guys.
What's the first one you said?
The first one that I think you and me read was Every Summer After. Do you remember that? Because I think we covered it and we were like,
yeah.
The next one was Meet Me at the Lake. I haven't read that one. Just the reviews, people were like, but I do want to read this new one. So that's it.
Yeah. I mean, that's a lot for being a full-time teacher. That's a lot. Like, well done.
After work, walking like 2.5 speed. Let's go.
For me, I'm just always like, I could read Bridgerton books again, or I could read something new.
That's fine. We got to get you into some more historical romances.
I know. Yeah. If you all have your recommendations, then let me know because I'm always looking for those because I really enjoy them. But yeah, I mean, I'm always looking for recommendations in general of, good, fun rom-coms.
I just saw one. Let me see if I can find it real quick. An author, Maisie Yates, just posted on Threads, like, if you love Bridgerton, here's another series to read. And I was like, Rachel loves Bridgerton. Okay. It's the Palace of Rogues series, and it's free on Kindle Unlimited right now by Julie Ann Long. She says, if you like Bridgerton / the Bridgerton books, you need to be reading Julie Ann Long because she's amazing. She's her favorite historical romance author. Her books are always emotional and so romantic, and her writing is beautiful. And that is by the Queen Maisie Yates. So, guys, if you're like Rachel and you've read the Bridgerton books tons of times and you love the series.
Yeah. Well, one I would recommend, I would recommend my friend Esther Hatch, all of her books, really fun for fans of Bridgerton. And especially if you're looking for something, more clean romance. But also I'd recommend Edenbrook by Julian Donaldson is what I know that anybody who likes Bridgerton would love that book. It is really good. So I would check that out. But that would be fun. I should talk to Natasha and see if she would want to do if you like Bridgerton,
try this,
episode. That would be fun.
Yeah, I would love to hear that. I would love to hear it.
At least though, the next time they're not going to make us wait 2 years in between
for the
seasons. I want them to die. There's this whole podcast called What a Barb, and where they have been going through all the different scenes, because that's the unique thing about season 3 is that it's a couple that we've seen in the other 2 seasons, where the other seasons they were new, a new couple. And so we've seen Colin and Penelope throughout these first 2 seasons. And so what they've done on this podcast is they go through and they call it the crumbs, and they look at these little tiny scenes between the 2 of them, and it's the most absurd thing ever, but I love it. And they're like, they'll be like, "Ooh, he's wearing yellow in that scene. That's Penelope's color," and all this stuff. It was so funny. I was talking to Dory yesterday, and we were talking about the season because they just published the first 4 episodes. And we were talking, and I was like, "Yeah, I totally listened to this podcast." And she's like, "What a Barb!" I'm like, "Yes."
Oh, I love it. I love what a podcast
do. See, I'm like, this is why we get along.
Yeah.
Well, that very good taste, strange podcast. So anyway, but yeah, I mean, there's been a lot of good stuff. So, I forgot to mention, have this out here, but this is a really fun book as well if you're looking for nonfiction.
But have you read the book?
I have read it. Yeah. Oh, and that's the title. But have you read the book by Kristen Lopez? I did interview her, so like I said, my trend of reading things only associated with my podcast, but it's really fun. She goes over.
Is that from Turner Classic Movies?
Yes.
Okay.
They like sponsored or whatever the book, and like here's chapter on Rebecca.
No way.
See.
Oh, last night I dreamt I went to Manderley again.
And, so good. And talking about the book versus the movie, and she has
which movie? Alfred Hitchcock's or Netflix's?
1940.
Okay.
Netflix one was terrible.
Okay, I haven't watched it yet. I refuse.
But like Jaws, Jurassic Park, Clueless, No Country for Old Men, Crazy Rich Asians.
Mhm.
So this is a good
Wow.
good one to get. I need to
Wow.
put that on my Goodreads.
That's an episode idea.
Yeah.
Could we stand reading Michael Crichton's Jurassic Park? I love the movies, but could I read the book?
Yeah,
I don't know.
Yeah.
Who's reading Jaws?
I haven't. Yeah, I've heard that both of those are not the best, but books. But I got through Dune. If I can get through Dune, I can get through anything.
Yeah.
Oh,
those
man.
books are huge.
Oh,
yeah.
so boring. Most boring book. And I'm not a Dune person. It's just not for me.
Yeah. It's okay.
Yeah.
Not everything is.
Well, I hope you all enjoyed this. And this is sort of more relaxed, more casual than our typical episodes, but we just wanted to catch up and talk about what we've been reading.
Share our banter.
Yes.
Okay, so you're going to go watch Happiness for Beginners and text me.
Yes. Okay, I will for sure.
We can record about it.
Yeah, and you should watch Molly and Max.
Yes.
In the future.
And follow them on TikTok.
And follow them on TikTok. And Hitman when that comes out. I think you'll like that. And Musica, that's the big one. Yeah. Watch Musica and let me know what you think.
Okay.
Because I thought it was just very fun.
Good. Alrighty.
Yeah. So and all you listening, let us know what you think of all these books we talked about, and also all of these movies that we talked about. Just whatever we talked about, let us know what you think. And Bree, how can people find you, your podcast, all your fun stuff?
I'm occasionally on the Instagram at Bree Unabashedly, and I post once a week at the Categorically Romance Podcast.
Great. And you can find me at Rachel's Reviews, all over social media, iTunes, YouTube, and on Rotten Tomatoes. And on Goodreads, you can find me. And make sure you're following us at Hallmarkies Pod and Hallmarkies Podcast, all over social media. And if you're listening on iTunes, please leave your ratings and reviews. Really appreciate that. And if you are watching on YouTube, please give the video a thumbs up and subscribe to the channel. We appreciate that so much. We also have our Patreon group and merch store. Check that out. And thanks so much, everybody. We'll talk to y'all later. Bye.
Bye.